with me in studio, Andy Hebert. And I tell you, when we did a going away party for Andy down at Dwyer's Cafe, we had more fun than you can imagine. And of course we did these T-shirts, and the T-shirts say Andy was right. And as we talk more and more about the charter amendments and what we're getting ready to sail into,
Mm.
I thought it might be a good idea to have Andy come in studio since he was in town. You were in town for the election, right?
Huh?
Were you in town for the
No,
election?
I'm in town for a performance of programs that I created for STEM NOLA in New
Oh yeah,
Orleans, which is
we want to talk
Saturday.
about that. Okay.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
came in, just in
yeah.
time for the
Yeah.
election too. So
All right. So, Andy, you've been saying all along, in fact, your complaints or
contention.
yes, contentions. Let's just say that
Hmm.
because they are contentions. This has been a problem from day one, from back in
Yeah,
'92.
this has been a created problem from way back in the '90s, and
All
uh,
right. So without relitigating that, you did file suit. You never got anywhere with that.
hmm
Now we see that was sort of a hybrid. Now we see this hybrid coming in
hmm
and superimposed over that hybrid. How do you see this working, Andy?
I it's going to be real interesting to see how each council agrees on uh, what they're doing, because from what I can see, there's numerous areas where both councils have to approve things, and that's one of the contentions was we're going to separate the city and they'll be independent, but in reality,
That's
they're
not
not.
happening, is it?
No, they're not.
Explain that to us, because a lot of people, including the big charter proponents,
Yeah.
they believe that they've given the city more autonomy, and as
Well,
it turns out, that is not the case.
no, that's not the case, and it's because the city parish attorney is going to appoint the city attorney, and he's going to appoint the parish attorney, but he's a city parish attorney. So that's I know we have at least 3 attorneys set up in this situation.
All right, and do the council members get to approve?
They
I
get
mean,
to approve.
they
Each
get to.
council member gets to approve.
Okay.
But the question is who's going to legal opinion are you going to agree with in that situation. So it'll be
Wow.
fun. The biggest contention that I have, and that has been the problem ever since the beginning, was have the citizens of the city of Lafayette ever had a separate election to change their
That
charter?
was your original
That's the
contention.
original contention. There has never been a city election to change your charter. Now think of this: you have a government set up, and you're a separate entity, but you never get to hold your own election to discuss the consequences of what that charter means. And that's part of the problem.
What
Due
I don't
process.
Okay, what I don't understand is and Nancy Mounts has said the same thing from day one. She was on the council. They
Yeah.
refused to call the election, thinking that would put the
Stop.
kibosh on it and
Yeah.
stop it, but
No.
it didn't.
No.
It didn't because it, as I recall, what they extrapolated the numbers out of the parish
They
vote.
duplicated, they Xeroxed the precincts in the city of a parish vote and said that was your city vote, your city election. Because I asked the Secretary of State for a copy of the certified city election results, and he sent me copies of the city precincts in the parish election, saying that was, and I've never heard of counting one vote twice, and that's what took place.
That is amazing.
And it's like,
And I guarantee you, 90% of the people have no clue that
yeah,
that is what happened.
yeah, that's exactly what happened. And in fact, there are documents filed in the lawsuit that says the city has never had an election to change its home rule charter.
That's when you filed the writ of
Red
mandamus.
mandamus against the city of Lafayette, because their charter, the home rule charter constitution, requires them to call an election to amend, abolish, or repeal their charter, and it has never happened.
So that sort of laid the groundwork for the problems you saw with the utility system.
Right. That started the scenario of the utility system. How are you going to control the utility system? And now you've given parish elected officials control of the city of Lafayette utility system.
And it's even worse than what it was before because, while they could have waited, WEIGHTED,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
weighted the
votes.
vote
That's right.
based on the number, the percentage of,
Of
let's say, a council
constituents.
member's
Right.
constituents in the
Mm-hmm.
city,
Yeah.
right? They
They
could have
could have.
done that.
Or they could have set up a separate public utility board for Lafayette utility system, which would have been the simplest, easy solution.
Hmm.
it had
A
been like a
separate
city
el-
council.
a
Yeah, it had
separate
been a city
elected
council
board, right?
elected board.
Right,
Exactly. That
right.
would have been the solution to the LUS problem in the old charter, the old consolidated charter.
Correct.
That was a solution to get the utilities out of the control of the parish council, and that was, of course, the fixers said, well, we'd lose control of something.
Well, see, and this is what bothers me about what happened back then when most of us, including me, were not paying attention, I
Hmm.
have to say.
Yeah, I understand.
But now in this situation we are, and we filed suit on the way they were trying to fix the fix.
Right.
And because it wasn't about the vote itself, it was about how they were trying to fix the mess that they
That's
created.
right. That's right.
And so those of us who were paying attention thinking, how does this go forward? But it goes forward when the courts won't look at it.
No.
The
No.
powers that be hide it.
Yeah.
We have a transition team in place now,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody will come out and say
But-
for a fact that this is a total disaster. We don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna hope the new elected officials are gonna,
Paper it over.
yeah, as
Make
one
the most of it.
as an official told me at one time, go along to get along, just to make it look good, so we don't have the black eye of the community.
All right, but that brings us to something. What if, as a class action,
Mm-hmm.
the stakeholders, the ratepayers
Right.
at the utility system,
Mm-hmm.
they decide, hey, there's too much power given to people out in the parish who didn't have anything to do with this utility system, with
Right.
the taxes, the millages,
Mhm.
et cetera, that funded the expansions, the improvements, all
Right.
that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What if a class action suit were filed in that case?
I
Would
think
that
you'd
be
Well,
legitimate?
Well, and again, you have to look at what was the governing authority of the Lafayette utility system prior to the fix. The LPUA was the governing authority. They had to get approval from the city parish council for anything. They overruled any city parish council no vote or yes vote. But the question is, did they ever call an election to change their governing authority? And the answer is no.
No, and their governing authority was only the 5 council members who had 60% or
Exactly.
more.
Exactly.
And so that disenfranchised quite a few
Quite a few
people.
voters. It's been doing that. I mean, that's been going on since consolidation.
Right.
They've been disenfranchised.
Who maybe are in a majority parish district,
Right.
but live within the city of Lafayette.
That's right. So they're
This is a complicated mess.
yeah, it is. So it's going to be interesting to see, if the city of Lafayette will ever have a chance to vote as the city of Lafayette only to amend this fixed charter to have a mayor
Yeah.
or have even a separate government. Because
Yeah,
you're going to
because-
have to get parish approval. You have to get 4 of the parish council members.
So you know what this brings to mind? You know what they're going through in St. George now, in Baton Rouge?
Yeah. Oh, I've been following that.
Very, very similar
Mhm.
kind of thing. If you've got to get parish-wide approval for the city
Yeah.
to be a totally separate entity.
Mhm.
Now, the folks who were putting fix the charter together knew what happened the last time in 2011 with total deconsolidation.
Right. Yeah.
And I said back then they could have fixed it by doing what you said,
Mhm.
creating a urban service district.
Yeah.
City of Lafayette only.
Yeah, and they could have done that. Or they could have done what we originally voted for, which was to merge the city of Lafayette with the parish,
The total parish.
total parish. That would have been the simplest solution because the jurisdiction of consolidated government doesn't include the small towns.
Yeah.
So we should have been one with the unincorporated areas.
And they were not. That is exactly right. And I thought that's what people thought it was going
That's
to be.
the game that was sold.
Right. And the smaller municipalities never even had a chance to vote on.
Oh, they can vote.
They didn't have a chance back then to vote whether they were left out completely.
Yeah, in fact, I saw the letters from some of the mayors saying if you include us in this consolidation, it will not pass.
Right. And so they just
So they
excluded
said,
them
hey,
automatically.
Automatically, we wrote the legislation and said, hey, this is for everybody except those towns. And, of course, they get to vote on it, too. Now, why did they get to vote on something they're not a party of is very interesting. A full party.
Yes,
you know.
exactly. Exactly.
And why did the city of Lafayette they've never actually had a city of Lafayette only election to change their governing authority since 92. And I keep asking people that. I'm, a taxpayer in this community of a city which has a separate tax base, but everybody gets to elect my leaders? Like right now, do you have taxation with equal representation right now?
Oh, absolutely not.
No, because you have a mayor president. So is he representing you
Well,
administratively
but
equally?
even beyond that, before the new charter amendments went in,
Yeah.
all the districts were, one district was 13,000, another was
Oh, yeah.
25,000.
Mm-hmm.
So there was very unequal representation from that
They call it
standpoint.
gerrymandering.
Right, yeah.
Technically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's to protect those in
Sure.
power. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing was done with these districts when they did these charter districts.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can look at the 4 council members who were going to be running for reelection: Nakan,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin
Yeah.
Nakan, Bruce Conk,
Mm-hmm.
Hebert, and Cook.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
they pretty much
Well, the serious part of this is consolidated government is the parish, and the parish council is set up with only 2 districts that represent a majority of the city of Lafayette.
that's exactly right.
So, will the city of Lafayette on a parish level
Well,
have?
and many of the times when those folks went out to sell it, they said, well, the parish needs to have its representatives too, totally. Well, it turns out that if it's a city versus parish thing, 2 of the council districts in the parish are majority city residents.
Right.
Where do you think their loyalty is going to be?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to listen to the majority in their district, I would imagine, if they
Yeah.
want to get reelected.
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's still not going to be it's not going to be equal representation. And by the way, the city now that they've equalized them to about roughly 25,000,
Mm-hmm.
and the parish has 45,000.
45,000. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's going to be rough.
That also changes how much money can be contributed,
Mm-hmm.
does it
Oh,
not?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because when you have a 45,000 district,
yeah, you can
that's
collect.
like state representative
Mm-hmm.
district. Yeah. So, Caitlin, what are we doing? We need to take a break? All right. We're going
All
to
right.
take a break, and we'll be right back on the Ross Report with Andy Hebert, the most knowledgeable person I know about the old charter, the new charter, the maybe charter. I don't know about the. We'll be right back on the Ross Report. 232-1542. You want to get in on the conversation? We're going to have a nice long conversation about this because, man, I'll tell you what, there is still so much confusion out there. We're going to try to clear it up, make it clear as mud, I guess. We'll be right back. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to the Ross Report. Happy to have in studio with us the great Andy Hebert, the guy who said all along, this was not going to work, people. And of course, we poo-pooed it back in the 90s, and now all those chickens are coming home to roost. And there's a lot of them, too, man. I tell you, it's a big hen house here. All right, so let's go to the way the votes are going to have to come down on anything, and I know that the transition team tried to get an answer on this. On any issue that comes down, it's going to require a 4 out of 5 vote on each council as far as budgetary.
They both have to approve the budget. Both councils have to approve the budget. So it's 3 out of 5.
And
approve the
it's
budget.
still a consolidated budget?
It's still a consolidated budget. The fun part about that is it's like we're married. We're going to talk about how much money we're each going to get. And then after we decide on that budget, then we can go back separately now and delete our budget. I can say, well,
Go back by amendment.
yeah, each council can now amend that budget and cut out what they don't want the other one to have.
Strictly by ordinance.
Strictly by ordinance. 3 of the council members. So the city council, the parish council. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out on how you editing out what was adopted.
Yeah.
Who's going to be, is if the city says we're going to fund the parish this amount, and then after the budget's adopted, the city can come back and amend that and say, no, we're not going to fund you that. So it's going to be real interesting to see, what legal opinions come down as whether or not you can amend that budget.
This is going to take a lot of, I would say, collegiality
Yeah.
on the part of these new council members,
Mm-hmm.
because I think we're in uncharted waters. I've said that from day one. We just have no idea how this functionally is going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, as a
Yeah.
matter of function.
Yeah. How are you going to get people to understand where things are coming from and how they're coming and what the law is with this jurisdiction versus that jurisdiction? Who's.
So, Andy, prior to this, okay, we have this fix
Mhm.
the charter now.
Right.
But what we could still do all of these things with cooperative endeavor agreements
Right.
or contract
Mhm.
for services, et cetera,
Right. That's
between the city and the
right.
parish,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
Since apparently the city has all the money, although I question whether that is
They
true
have
as
that much
well.
money.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't have that much money. And now we see the situation with LUS. We're going to get into that next hour because to me
Okay.
that is one of the most troubling things that we are facing as
Yeah.
a community, and this is going to
Mhm.
fall on the city
Right.
taxpayers, ratepayers, stakeholders, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
them. So
Yeah.
we'll get into that next
Okay.
hour. But in terms of the budget, they have to come together as a consolidated council. That's where the mayor president is going to have the wisdom of Solomon
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
try
Figure
to
out.
figure out and to be the broker, the honest broker
Yeah.
between the two councils.
Well,
If it comes down to
they'll set up a committee, I'm sure that'll discuss what percentage each government should pay, which is what they have basically now. And they figure out, well,
so, what
we're
was
going to
the point of
reimburse you
going through
for
this whole exercise? What has this really changed if we're still having to do these kinds of
the purpose.
negotiations?
The purpose of this was to panic the public into splitting the councils because in reapportionment, which is coming
Coming
next
up.
year, the council will find out that the city of Lafayette has more population than the rest of the parish. And because people like you and I asked the question of how come we don't have equal representation in each council district, which is required, they wouldn't be
Mhm.
gerrymandering, then the majority of the city council would have population in the city of Lafayette. And they could elect an entire city of Lafayette person.
But that belies exactly what Bruce Conk told me they were worried about, which was that the population was going to grow so
Shift
much
out.
outside
Right.
the city of
Mhm.
Lafayette that they were going to be in control. And the
Yeah.
exact, we just saw in some of the in interim census numbers, that is not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lafayette has grown
Well,
somewhat.
that's because they knew that was going to happen, and they wanted to maintain the control by the parish of the charter, which they've done.
But that's not what they said.
I know.
That's
Well,
not what they said.
well. You remember when we did the first consolidation? The purpose was the city's
Parish.
annexing all the land. The parish is going broke. The city's in turmoil. We need to adopt the consolidation.
Yeah.
Now, it's a dual process.
Well, yeah, and it wouldn't have been so bad except the first government under that. Peter, go.
Right.
I'm sorry. Let's do this.
Yeah. Let's go.
Before we get into that, Peter, go ahead. You're on the Ross Report. Welcome. Hey, Peter.
Andy, we have the best conversations at Dwyer's.
Peter, hey, how you doing?
Good. And Andy, I want to know how many lawyers have to get hired and who has to hire lawyers. We talked about that the other morning.
Yeah,
Like
from what I can
city council
understand,
has
the city parish attorney is going to appoint a city attorney and appoint a parish attorney, and those attorneys have to be approved by each of their councils. So you can have at least 3 attorneys, from what I can understand.
Oh well, listen, that'd be nothing compared to what they have now.
Yeah,
Have
well,
you seen how the legal bills have gone through the roof? They fight. Peter, have you ever made a public records request to the city?
Oh, yeah.
You know where it goes? It goes to Oates and Marino. And they get to bill some hours, and they do real well just answering public records requests
or even just questions.
or questions.
or not answering is the
Or
question.
not answering.
He's told to put it in writing every time he spoke at a meeting.
Yeah,
Andy,
put it in writing.
Andy, did you ever get any replies?
On one of them I did, but
One out of how many?
yeah, one out of how many? And it's funny when you ask the council, to a question, you would think your council representative would follow up and ask that question for you. In which a lot of cases they would just go, "That's a good question," but
All right,
we don't want it.
Peter. Here's
Anyway.
the craziest part. Okay, when Joey Durrell was mayor president, he had 6, 7, maybe at the most at a point of time he had 8 special assistants, but mostly it was around 6 or 7. Joel Robideau has 13 special assistants in his office. That doesn't include the CAO and that person's staff.
Mhm.
So you'd think that one of those 13 would be competent enough to answer public records requests. Just one.
Mhm.
Where you wouldn't have to have an attorney's firm bill those hours. And by the way, you get to you have to answer within 72 hours and just say, "We got your request. We're working on it."
Right.
But then you have time to work on it as
Mhm.
you see fit. It's crazy the way the legal fees have gone through the roof. 141%, I think, year over year.
Wow.
It's crazy. Thank you,
Mhm.
Peter. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with you, buddy. Don't go away. On the Ross Report, Andy Hebert, he's got the T-shirt, and it proves it. Andy was right. We'll be right back on the Ross Report, trying trying to work through the shoals of this consolidated government, and with this new council member and new mayor president. Oh my lord, new councils, I should say. Anyway, we're going to try to shed a little light on the subject. Don't go away. 232-1542. We'll be right back. Welcome back, my friends, to the Ross Report. So pleased to have in studio with us Andy Hebert talking about the troubled shoals that we're about to negotiate coming into this new form of government. Buddy, go ahead. You're on the Ross Report. Welcome.
Thank you, Carol. And Andy, I want to commend Andy. As being a whistleblower, Carol, some of the things that I've been involved in over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to make people aware. I know it takes courage to come out and say things. We have a community here that has listened to Andy's concerns for years. He's been ridiculed, I think even once arrested, just
Really?
because he's trying to tell us. No, just because he's trying to tell us this is not working and it's just wrong. And, at first I kind of, with the pundits, maybe Andy, but, I go to Dwyer's and I started sitting with Andy on different days and he started explaining these issues. And I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but it showed me it was a complete disaster, And why is it the people on this conversion committee or whatever they are that are reviewing the fix the charter? Reputable people, one in particular told me it was like putting lipstick on a pig. He said because the document was been such a flawed document from the beginning, you're just adding more and more layers to it and a whole lot more complexity.
Yeah. This
and
is true.
Andy, you were right, and I love you, brother.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that.
Thanks, buddy.
I represent the Hebert Consulting firm right now.
Hey, you know what? Before it's over, they may hire him. He'll be one of the suits. Instead of paying CSRS $500K, Andy, you might take a little bit less than that, huh?
Yeah, I might take a little bit less.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well,
I'll go genuflect in front of the cathedral. Thank you, Jesus.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
all right.
appreciate it, buddy.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
It's going to be an interesting, and as a citizen, when you go out there to tell these people what you've discovered, and it's disheartening to have them not really pay attention to it.
Well, it happened the first time around, and the chamber was backing it the first time around. This time around, one Acadiana was backing it, and all the powers that be, and all the smartest guys in the room and gals. I use that term as a generic term.
Yeah.
I don't know, what pronouns they want me to use, but I just use guys as a generic term because I'm from up east. Use guys, that's what we say up east. But this was interesting because I don't know if the Lafayette Parish Republicans were listening to you, but on their Facebook page, this is exactly what they said on the charter. The result is the exact opposite of what was promised. City of Lafayette lost its majority on the parish council, even though we have 56% of the population. Parish Council now has full functional control over Lafayette's budget, LUS, and LUS fiber, meaning a full loss of autonomy. So they were talking about the charter group pushing it. They said they're not only corrupt, they're incompetent in the extreme, and we're all going to pay the price going forward.
Yeah. It's going to be real interesting. And I hope those elected officials that have been elected and are going to be elected will seriously look at what needs to really fix the problem.
You bet. And go back to... It's going to be impossible to go back to ground zero, right? Back to square one.
Mm-hmm.
But there will be ways to fix it. We'll talk about that when we come back. We have the music, we have the traffic, the weather, all the good stuff coming up, the news, and then we'll be right back with Andy Hebert on the Ross Report for this Monday, day after election. Are you kind of let down? Are you excited? Listen, we have another month to go. Don't lose faith, people. Don't lose faith. It's all going to be good. And we'll be right back. Don't go away.